Today, though, opening day of the 2017 General Assembly in Richmond. Andrew's Army is here at Senator Bill DeSteff's headquarters here on the third floor at the General Assembly building. So nice to give your office up for us, Senator DeSteff. Thank you.
Anytime, John. Love to have you. Love listening to your show. And, it's time to get the people's work done.
I know. Well, you guys are starting now. Also with us, House of Delegates member, Republican Glenn Davis from Virginia Beach. Also one of three candidates running for Lieutenant Governor. And Emily Brewer is with us. Andrew Vehorn, a longtime consultant, Boyd Marcus, and now political author and consultant Aaron Goldbranson with us. So we're all here today. What do we look for? We talked a little bit about the LG's race. Let's go to the governor's race, get politics out of the way here before we get to policy. Denver Riggleman jumping in yesterday or the day before or the day before that.
The whiskey rebellion has started, apparently.
But it's like, this guy shot terrorists, now he makes whiskey. He was on my show yesterday. I'm just going to say this. He has a very compelling story when you compare him against some of the other politicians running, because and he has some great one-liners. Also, he said the systems in Richmond is rigged for the elites and wired for the cronies, things like that. He went through this experience. He said, look, all I tried to do was start a distillery, put people to work, and I got roadblocks thrown in front of me. I got threatened, all this stuff. Does this candidacy have legs, Aaron?
Depends on what his finance report says.
Well, he says he's going to fund some of it.
He's got a compelling message. He relates to people. I think he'd have a pretty darn good chance at a convention, but it's a primary, so it's all about money. Ed still has no message yet, and now he's marching along towards the aura of inevitability. And Steve Albertson has sold out to the establishment and endorsed Ed Gillespie. Apparently, I say that tongue in cheek. But
when was that? Recently?
Yesterday. There was an article in the Bull Elephant, yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't see it. I must have been coming up here. Well, that doesn't mean he's sold out, right? Maybe he's just
I'm kidding.
Guy,
Steve's
right?
a friend.
He is a friend.
Yeah.
Plus the Bull Elephant. I think the hospitality suite they had in Richmond, I think it's still going on. I don't think it ever ended. Let's get to consultant Boyd Marcus. Denver Riggleman, does it shake up the race, or is it a non-event?
I think it, when you're in a multi-candidate race, the more people that are in, the more possibilities arise. That's part of what happened in the presidential race. 14 guys, 15 guys running for president left, a lot of opportunity.
We won.
That's right. The guy who started off with the highest name ID and had the clearest message won the election.
It's called a movement, Boyd.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes. And and I think that Riggleman coming in, it really has the potential, because I think his message is, again, potentially, he's had some great one-liners. You put your finger on that. I think his everything, what he said in the last two days is a lot more memorable than what any of the other candidates have said in the last 6 months.
For somebody that's never been a candidate with no media experience, he's been on my show 2 times or 3, but the last 2 times, it was highly entertaining. Mm-hmm. And when he gets on a roll, I just have to say, the guy has something to say. Mm-hmm. And for people that have dealt with any of this, when he started, Senator DeSteff, when he started yesterday, holding out all these taxes he has to pay, and he just had like 15 of them, one after the other, rapid fire, it's shocking to people. It's like, wow, all those taxes, like, you have to pay this and this, and blah, blah, blah. So, look, is he going to have any impact at all this race? And if so, who does he hurt or help?
Well, I think if anything, he takes away from Ed Gillespie. I think on the other side, Frank Wagner keeps moving along. Frank is a job creator. He signs not just the back of a check, he signs the front of a check. So Frank's, I believe, the only one with the military experience. Frank was a Naval Academy graduate, served in the Navy, shipyards, diver, very sharp guy, very, very sharp businessman. And, frankly, I think that Frank has probably the best chance. Trump showed you that we don't want a Washington insider. So I think Ed's going to have an uphill battle. Frank will do well raising money. I think Ed's done a fabulous job raising money. We'll see what happens. But right now, my money's on Frank Wagner.
All right, so you think Riggleman hurts Gillespie, helps Wagner? Well,
Correct.
No impact on Wagner, so if it hurts Gillespie, it helps.
Hurts Gillespie.
Right now. Glenn Davis,
I mean, well,
what do you think?
One thing I do agree with Bill on is Frank's an amazing guy, probably one of the smartest guys you're going to find on energy. A Naval Academy graduate. I mean, the guy's just people discount him. They sometimes don't realize just how smart Frank is. And I've known Frank going back to '91 when I was his aide. But I look at this a little bit differently. I think Denver takes away from everyone but Ed. You look at his message, and I've enjoyed listening to him on your show. And he's very quick on the sound bites. He's got he's in this for the same reason I got in this thing back when I started running for delegate. I'm annoyed at the heck that we're really taxing small business owners out of existence before they get out of their house, never mind inside their business model. He's seen that firsthand, just like I am, and he's tired of it. And the people have realized, and shown that they're tired of it too. And he's got a very concise message around that. So I would argue, and once again, y'all know better than I, but I think if he's pulling from anyone, he's pulling from everyone kind of but Ed in this type of situation. But I don't know what y'all think.
Emily?
I think the really interesting situation here is I look at it that after Trump, we learned one major thing. It's not about a message. It's not about a boilerplate. This is about ideas. I think that's what's really, really cool about Denver Riggleman is he is an ideas guy. He's coming outside of the box. He's a really cool guy. I think the person he takes from more than anybody, though, I think is actually Corey Stewart.
Corey who?
Andrew?
What's going to be fascinating to watch about Riggleman is, can he get penetration? We know who he is and we know his story because we eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. If Bill and Glenn go home and somebody comes up to them at the Farm Fresh and says, hey, who is this Riggleman guy? Then you know there's a real movement going on. But he's going to have to get his name out and get some penetration to have a chance.
I think. Can I?
Yes, Boyd. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Boyd,
I think the
Marcus.
point. I think the point for Riggleman is, he was a naval officer. He did serve in the war on terrorism. But the thing with him is that I saw more newspaper coverage, which is certainly the old, the old media now. But there was more newspaper coverage on Riggleman's announcement than I was astonished by the weight the amount it came up with. But it was because he was able to express his message in a very relatable way. It's just what you were saying, John, that he's an interesting guy to listen to, and he's not going to political speak. And that was what, a big part of what Donald Trump did is he wasn't political speak. And as much as all of us cautious politicians, spend our whole life trying to not say the wrong thing, it's can you say it in a bold way that interests people? And that's, I think, his real possibility in this race. If he continues to do that, and he meets the minimum amount that he needs of money to raise to make himself viable, I think he can draw from everywhere. And I would go back to what Senator DeSteph said, which was that the contrast is greater with Gillespie than it is with Corey Stewart, or it is even with Frank. The contrast for Riggleman is, illustrating the button. Ed Gillespie's got a lot of positives about him, but he's a very buttoned down, much more typical politician image that he's presenting than what Corey Stewart or Riggleman.
I think you're onto something there, and I agree with both you and DeSteph on that, because the contrast to Ed Gillespie is very stark. Mm-hmm. But Aaron, I know you want to weigh in.
Well, I was just going to say, we said this about a month ago. Riggleman gets in, Corey's completely done. And, yeah, I do want to echo that. Riggleman, when you meet him or you hear him or you read things about him, you go, oh, well, that's the real person in the race, and the other three are politicians.
Look, I think his candidacy, I'm going to say three things. Number one, I wouldn't count him out. Yeah. I mean, I think this guy's got a legitimate chance to be a player in this four-way race, no question. I happen to agree with all of you. There's definitely a contrast to Gillespie, and I think it's going to force Ed to do something here, because running this campaign, this consultant-driven, no message, I'm doing all the right things and I'm not going to say anything, I don't think that's going to fly with Riggleman. But I think it is the end of any chance that Corey Stewart had to be the nominee, because he's going after the same base, but he's more realistic than Stewart, because Stewart's a lawyer and Stewart's a politician, and he's not, and he didn't get fired from the Trump campaign, and he's also an Air Force veteran. And just got a text here from Mark Lloyd that wanted me to say, remember that Riggleman is an Air Force veteran and Intel Air Force officer. Obviously, Lloyd likes him, but he's got some things going that no one else has, and he has something interesting to say, and he's new and different.
And is Riggleman going to staff up? It'll be interesting to see who he hires and the kind of people he brings on
He's
board.
hired as a general consultant, Carlisle Gregory.
I mean, that's a legitimate firm, right?
Zach Worrell's his manager. So we'll see.
I mean,
who
Zach
else.
is Zach, but Zach will work. Zach will get up at 5 a.m. and he'll work till midnight and sleep in the office. So what you say about him, he's going to work. So, I think he's going to get on the ballot, and I think he definitely adds a flavor to this debate. And I think Gillespie's strategy was basically, go after Corey Stewart, race over.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit different.
He's got to find a message other than vote for me because I'm who you should vote for. I'm a contrarian. Somebody says you should do this because, you better do this. I'm not going to do it unless I have an overriding reason to do it. So they need to come up with a reason.
What do you think, Andrew?
Riggleman has a populist message in a couple of things. He's got the blue-collar kind of rough-and-tumble appearance, just like Frank Wagner does. So I think they're going to bring that to the forefront, and that may boost both those guys. A rising tide lifts all boats. Gillespie is not a blue-collar candidate. With the Trump wave, that is the deciding factor, I think, to see where the rural side of the state comes down. One of the interesting issues that he's taken on that you don't typically see come out of the Republican Party is he's going against the pipeline. He said that was one of the issues that he was running on aside from all of this regulation, was Dominion's pipeline. That's a big issue in central and south side Virginia on both sides of things. So that's going to hurt him and help him with some folks.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is the pipeline's about jobs in the economy. The jobs created by that pipeline and the economy, the economic stimulation from that pipeline is tremendous, not just in the western side of the state, all across the state. So when you build businesses and you continue building neighborhoods and houses that require natural gas, and you have somebody going against that, you're going to lose Chamber of Commerce, but you're going to lose those who are about the message is jobs in the economy. The economy is not back where it needs to be yet. So the person who carries that jobs in the economy message is Frank Wagner. So if you think about it for a minute, that's the way to go. He's talking about all the problems with the establishment, all the problems with government. Well, hell, every one of us can get in there and tell you 100 different problems, but we're in there solving them on a day-to-day basis. So I go back to, I don't think he hurts Frank Wagner. I think he hurts Ed Gillespie. You got a Washington insider, then you've got another guy, and on the south from the Southwest who's going to go against jobs in the economy. I don't think it's going to be.
Well, I think you're right. I think his position on the pipeline is a dead ring loser. It goes counter with the message. The other thing it hurts him with it because they're trying to build a pipeline or something in his backyard. It looks like maybe there's a vendetta. So I think the whole pipeline thing is a negative for his campaign. I think he does a lot better when he talks about regulation, starting a business, hiring people, and all the problems that go with that. But I agree with the Steph here. I think this really hurts Stewart. I think it's devastating for him. I mean, if I'm Corey Stewart now, it's like I got a real issue. And draws the contrast to Ed. I think the person that helps is Wagner.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed. 100%.
Let me ask you one more question. And truly, we're talking about a primary. The primary is about getting your message across the entire state and getting it out. So what do you need? You need money. Aaron, you brought that up before. The critical thing is money. Who can raise money? Who can self-fund? So think about it. What's the cost of a governor race, gubernatorial race?
20 million, 25 million.
Yeah, but you're really talking about the primary. Once you've gone to the primary, then the base funders of the party and will step up.
But a primary,
but in this primary,
10 million?
No, I think you're talking
3
2 to 3 million.
Okay.
I mean, I think I said I mentioned it on the only serious gubernatorial primary we ever had in the state was 1989. Each of the candidates in that race, who were all well known, multiple office holder, statewide had run and all run before statewide. They each raised $3 million in 1989. Now, I don't think anybody in this race would be able to raise the equivalent of that in 2017 dollars. That would be like, $10 million a piece or something. But I do think that you're going to need $3 million to, $2 to $3 million. But again, if one of these candidates can capture the imagination and capture the media, and you certainly can't do it the way that Donald Trump did it in the presidential race, but if you capture people's attention, that goes a long ways towards making it up, the message, the image you're casting. And I think, I don't know how much money Riggleman can raise, but I will say this. There are a lot of people who have condos and houses at Wintergreen who really don't want that pipeline coming through, and I would not underestimate the amount of opposition that exists on that.
Let me read a text here from Ron Hedlund, and then we'll go to Andrew and close out. He says, Riggleman, the Whiskey Rebellion, will that attract the evangelical vote? It might not do that, Ron, but it will attract the Catholic vote. I can guarantee you that.
Got to have something to sip on communion.
You will definitely attract the Catholic vote.
Well,
and then he says,
too.
Not the Baptists, but
he says Zach Worrell has painted Riggleman as the populist NIMBY. Go ahead, Andrew, close it out.
He's launching his campaign this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of crowd he gets. If he gets 200 or 300 people out to his distillery that are interested in this campaign, and then he can translate that into events across the state with that kind of energy, then there's something real there. But even going back to Henry Howell versus Mills Godwin, you don't win elections running against Dominion in Virginia.
You really don't. All right, we're out of time for this segment, and that's a good line, Ron Hedlund. The populist NIMBY, that's pretty good. And I'll be back with Andrew's Army and Senator D. Steph. Stay with us.